This one goes out to all the little bros out there. Y'all be safe, man. Might not be my blood, but you my little bro. Care about you, so I really gotta let you know. The streets foul, man, gotta reap what you sow. There's grown men out here grown, I never grow. Lil' bro, might not be my blood, but you my little bro. Care about you, so I really gotta let you know. The streets foul, man, gotta reap what you sow. There's grown men out here grown, that never grow. Lil' bro, turn on the news, another kid got shot.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of How to Beat the Streets podcast. Now today, we got a very special guest in the building. Entrepreneur, founder, and executive director of the Westchester Barber School. We got Charnay Phaire in the building.
What's up? Thanks for having me.
How you feeling today, my brother?
I'm feeling great, man.
It's great to have you here, man. We also have Bilal in the building. Can you introduce yourself?
Yo, what's up? I'm Bilal Triori. I'm a 12th grade senior at Phaire Academy.
Dope. 12th grade senior, man. It's good to have you in here. You know, it's good to, have you in here so you can get this uplift from some great brothers in the building. I hope you learn a lot from this podcast, and I hope that this is something that, to inspire you to keep going on your journey. All right? So here on How to Beat the Streets podcast, we always get started with a quote, and the quote we have for you today is, "The path is more important than the destination." What does that quote mean to you?
That's a pivotal quote. The path is more important than the destination because, especially as human beings, one of our best traits is our ability to adapt, right? So you get into situations all the time, not being good enough, not coming to the table with all of your tools, and you got to figure it out. Life gives the exam first, then the study later.
Ooh, I like that. Life gives the exam first, then the study later. That's great. Now the question of the day: a lot of popular rap artists, even a lot of young brothers in the community, have been falling victim to gun violence. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think we could do to start changing the narrative for young black men?
I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot of layers to this onion. I think music, number one. We can't be co-signing, people getting killed, and why is it okay for us to talk about clapping each other, but you don't hear any of that from other cultures,
right?
So I think music, number one, but we also have to have a culture. I remember in the 90s, early 90s, where it was like, yo, what's up, King? How you doing? It was that camaraderie, Look at Self-Destruction, right? The song Self-Destruction.
Headed for self. Yeah, that's
exactly, right? So you have a song that was just futuristic, just talking about all the things that goes on. So I think music is number one. The culture, number two. We have to have a culture within ourselves, within our environment, just really it makes it not cool to insult somebody because right. You know what? After a while, you got all these reality shows where people are doing all types of stuff, but it's acceptable. This is what we see. It's ingrained in our head all the time, and it's cool for you to disrespect somebody.
It's almost like negativity is always, something that is popular. It sells more. Like even for me, when I first started doing music, I thought because I, came from the struggle. My father was shot and killed in Brooklyn, and I went away to college, and I started, doing great things. Pledged one of the greatest fraternities, known to man. And then I started doing music. I was a teacher, and I'm like, yeah, this is gonna work. And then when I started making the music, I wasn't getting the reaction like I thought I would. And then people started literally telling me like, your music is too good. Like you have messages. You speaking in a way that you can't reach the masses. You got to dumb it down. And I was like, I was so thrown off by that, especially as a young man. At that time, I was like 22. And I was like, I did all this work, to beat the streets, to overcome all the things I went through just for people to tell me like, nah, that's the way that you got to be if you want to, get everybody attention. So I was always confused by that.
And it's funny, your path is better than your destination, right? Because if you would have made it to be artist, right, that you would have been taken away from your platform here, helping so many kids, your music, everything. So your path, I could see how you're more successful reaching everybody else than if your music was to be mainstream.
Right.
The fact that you're here as a teacher, mentoring, and just providing people with that guidance, man, you're right where you need to be.
I appreciate that.
I also just feel like it's just a foundation that's being built right now in the process for a lot of young people, because, you know, a lot of drill music nowadays is just getting people, and everybody want to hop on that wave and just like feed into like the negativity, and they feel like it's popping right now. So a lot of people, like a lot of young people nowadays, is using the drill platform to get more views and get more things and, like, you know, get more popularity, and it's not going good for them, because a lot of people, those same people that's not really about that life, the same ones dying over something they could have avoided.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it is their path, but like it's not giving them a great destination.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is coming from the youth right here, you know?
Absolutely.
So that's great that you on that type of time. So we can already see that you're going to be one of the game changers as far as, you know, when you get to college and then when you come back to your community to give back. All right, so let's get into the interview. What's your name and where you from?
My name is Charnay Phaire. I am the executive director and founder of Westchester Barber Academy, and I am here. I'm from the South Bronx.
Ooh, South Bronx. You know, we got a lot of love for the Bronx here. So what was your biggest challenge growing up in the streets of the Bronx?
I had every challenge growing up. Like, I mean, you saw some of the interviews. Like, I'm the youngest of 7 kids, right? So in my family, it's boy, girl, 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 me.
Wow.
Right? So when you take the 4 oldest out of the house, I'm left 2 of my sisters and my mom. You know, so my father passed away of HIV when I was 8.
Wow.
And
Sorry to hear that.
and thank you. And my oldest brother, 4 years after that, passed away of HIV when I was 12. So I had one brother left, and he was going to college. So, you know, I knew that I had to supplement, you know, what I was getting from, you know, home. I needed that male influence, and somehow innately I knew that just being around the barbershop, being in the barbershop, working in the barbershop, that I would be able to cherry pick which men I wanted to emulate. So for me, the biggest challenge, there was so many, you know, walking home, I traveled an hour away from school to school, you know, and that whole process of getting to school, you're playmaking in your head. I'm not going to walk down this block. This is where the junkies are. I'm not going to walk down that block. That's where the gang members are. You know, that's where the hustlers are. You know, you learn how to navigate. And as a shorty, you it's playmaking, right? So if you change that platform, you can actually do a lot of great things.
And that's, man, especially coming up during that time, you know, I hear stories. Even my mother spent some time in the Bronx when she was younger as well, and she mentioned the same thing. Like, just walking to school was a journey in itself before you even got into the class. And then hopefully you was in a good school, and if you wasn't, then that was a whole nother piece of it as well. So, salute to you. So, how did you fall in love with cutting hair? And I know you've seen a few, you know, guys doing their thing, and your brother going away to college. So what made you think, you know what, I'm gonna get this a try?
Well, one, I didn't have a choice, right? My older brother, who's a brother too, you know, he went away to college, and he used to cut my hair before he went away to school. And he wasn't like on barber quality. He was good enough to not get me laughed at, right? So when he left the pair of clippers behind, you know, and he wasn't coming home, I was like, all right, I got to fend for myself. So I started, you know, trying to experiment on my head and cutting it all off and everything. And, you know, there's opportunity in the darkest of places. Like I told you, I had, you know, my oldest brother and my father passed away. You know, my family spent a couple of weeks in the shelter. And, you know, I started getting a following in the shelter.
Wow, that's different.
And next thing you know, I saw the respect that I got, you know, just from giving somebody a baldy, you know, just the camaraderie and everything. And then each time I got my hand on a little bit of money, I'm getting powder, I'm getting sprays, I'm getting different things to
scaling the business,
to garnish the experience. So for me, I love the respect that came with it. And I was like, I think I can do this. And especially I had my older brother telling me that if you become a barber and be a fully licensed barber, by the time it's time for you to go to school, the campus will eat you alive. That's literally what he said. And being the youngest of 7 kids, you only got to tell me something one time.
You know, you're going. Yeah. So that's big too, especially, you know, having Bilal here. We know that Bilal, had a few moments where he's in the bathroom cutting kids' hair and all that. Yeah. So that's why it's important for you, to hear this and listen to this, because let's talk about when you went to college.
Yeah.
How was you able to, manage being a student in college, but also cutting hair? And tell us a little bit about your journey in college and cutting hair.
Yeah, when I went away to college, I went away to Stony Brook in Long Island. So, great institution. But when I got there, I was just partying. I was just partying. I forgot that I was there to be a student. And, I got put on academic probation, between going to the parties, cutting hair, everything. My social life was up top, but my academic life was down here.
It happens.
So, I didn't feel like I was college material. These kids were running circles around me in terms of what they knew in class. I'm like, yo, where you know this stuff from? Like, y'all high school, you didn't learn that? And I'm like, no. So I didn't feel like I was college material. But then when I got put on academic probation, I had a real simple choice to make. Either I become college material or I go back to home to the hood. And there was nothing waiting for me where I lived.
Right. So you had to keep that pushing.
I had to figure it out. So you talk about the process is better than the destination.
That was a part of the journey.
I had to figure it out. It was part of the journey.
Now, you got any questions for him on this topic of cutting hair in college?
It's just like, time management. I struggle a lot with time management, just getting time in on time. And me as a person whom I coach, described as somebody who gravitates towards a lot of things. Mm-hmm. It's just like managing your time and knowing when's the right time to cut hair, study, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's something, even if I gave you a template to run with, you still got to figure it out on your own, right? Because in college, college is the world in one place, and there's no shortage of things to do. I don't care what time of the day it is. There's no shortage of, hey, come over here, we're going to this party, or we're having a sweet party, or we're gonna watch the game, or whatever. And you got females hollering at you too. So that is probably gonna be the biggest thing. You're gonna learn a lot about yourself when you go to college, and you're gonna have your plate full, but you gotta figure out a way to simplify it. In order to be great, greatness is being good consistently. So you gotta figure out what don't you need, right? And only you can figure that out. You might think like, all right, yeah, I want to party, I want to hang out with women, whatever. Is that really helping you towards your goal?
No. That's great advice there, man. I wish I had some of this advice before I went. Now, when you graduated college, did you get into like a career job, or did you go right into full entrepreneurship, or what was your transition like?
Yeah, when I graduated from college, I actually worked at Whole Foods Market as the HR administrator for 4 years, and I always kept my skills sharp, cutting my nephews, my brothers, and everything. So I always kept that up. And 4 years after I graduated, and 4 years after working at Whole Foods, I decided to open a barbershop. Not quitting any of the jobs. I did leave where I was at, but I kept seeing that there was like a turnover. Like I would never be at a job more than 2-3 years. I mean, it was surprising. I was at my first job for 4 years, but that was kind of like the turnover. And I was like, listen, it's not sustainable. I have to do something. And this is before I was married, before I had a wife and kids, everything. So I opened a barbershop, kept it for 5 years. And I noticed that when I was away at work, the business didn't make any money. But when I came from work, the business made money. But next thing I know, I'm like, all right, my wife and I, we got married. We had our first child. And I'm like, I don't have enough time to do anything right now. So I never wanted to be one of those guys who was great at the expense of their family. I wanted to be great because of my family.
Oh, I like that. It's a great gem right there. And so your first barbershop, where was it located?
It was located on East 180th and Morris Park in the Bronx. It was called Phaire.
And what are some like do's and don'ts of like starting your first barbershop or like running your first barbershop? Like maybe two and two do's and don'ts. Great
question. I mean, you got to have the right team, right? You got to have the right team, even if they're not owners. You got to be able to, you got to be able to have the right structure. and people that you can rely on. You know, another thing is you don't want to do too much too fast. You don't want to, you know, get marble floors and everything like that. You want to scale, you know, just open and be consistent. That's the biggest thing, being consistent, because, you know, you're going to have situations where people are going to constantly pull at your time, everything, and you want to be consistent. So I think those are some of the biggest gems. And the one thing I'm always going to say in any situation is that you always don't crap where you eat. Right.
That.
So
that goes for everybody.
That goes for everywhere.
All careers.
All careers, exactly. Don't crap where you eat.
Thank you. Now, owning, every time I had started, I did a little bit of time, you know, living in Mount Vernon, and I always used to ride past the Westchester Barber Academy, and I was like, man, this is like really dope, you know, to have like, so I run my own mentoring program as well, you know, uplifting the youth is a thing. Now, I was trying to research the program so I can share it with a mom of one of the students that I mentor, and I had shared the information, and you know, the mom was just blown away by, you know, the service that you guys provide and everything. So how did you get started with the Westchester Barber Academy, and what made you choose the Westchester area, and like just tell us a little bit about the upbringing of the Westchester Barber Academy.
Yeah. So I lived in Mount Vernon for 11 years and loved it. You know, where I'm from in the South Bronx, we didn't have a community, right? In Mount Vernon, people went to school together, and you know, it's 4 square miles, right? So I saw a community when I went to Mount Vernon, and still love Mount Vernon to this day. So I would love to tell you that, you know, it was always in the works for me to do a program like this, but you figure it out, right? The journey. Me transitioning from jobs every 2 to 3 years, life put me in a position where I had to figuratively empty my pockets and lay everything on the table.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, I know I was the director of a charter school. I know how to run a school. I mentor. I cut hair, you know, and actually I started an after-school barbering program where I taught kids in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade how to cut hair. And it was because some of the boys were getting in trouble to spend one-on-one man time with me. So I was like, all right, I'm in the office too much. Let me do something, spend some time with these young brothers. So the after-school barbering program took off. Wow. And one of the kids is still with me. He has a chair in my shop now. He's 20 years old. He started with me when he was 13. But you know, it started as an after-school barbering program, and then I'm like, all right, well, you know, if I can teach kids as early as 5th grade how to cut hair, I can teach anybody. And I, you know, kept all my equipment from when I closed the shop, and I started the after-school barbering program. It was a real-life barber shop, 4 chairs. Staff were coming in, parents were coming in to get a haircut, and then I was just like, all right, well, you know what? Let me continue to do this. I went to go visit one of my church friends in the nursing home. He's like, I need a cut. So I went to go cut his hair, and then he's like, yo, they need you in here. Like, can you be like the resident barber? So I was like, all right, fine. And I was the resident barber at that nursing home, and then I duplicated the process and just started adding contracts where I showed up and I cut hair and my day was done. So this was in addition to me having a full-time job, and just adding those. And Rikers Island was the 3rd contract that we actually got, and that pushed us up top into another stratosphere.
Well, that's big. So you spent time working in Rikers Island. What was that like? A lot of people were nervous to go in there.
Yeah, it was an experience. But you know what? For me, you know, just growing up in the hood, like I saw interacted with people who did time on a regular basis, playing ball, cutting hair, all of these different things. So, you know, I had to figure out what I was there for, you know, and as long as you stay true to what you're there for, you know, your gift makes room for you. So when it comes to Rikers, even in jail, the barbershop is a safe haven. You know, like, you know, other inmates will pound each other out if they keep them from getting a haircut. You know, so it was an experience. You have your personalities in there. You have your strong personalities, but, you know, you can't engage anybody's ego. You know, it's all right. I'm here for you. I'm here to help you. If you don't want me to help you, then that's a different conversation.
Right.
You know, but it was more so showing them that they have transferable skills. And I play this game with them, and I'm like, all right, for every illegal activity, I can show you a real legal way to do it.
Wow. So you was actually building and teaching while you was cutting hair in there.
Absolutely.
And that led me to think, like, how important is the barbershop to the culture?
Oh my God. I mean, to the black community, it's super important. You know, you got the black church, then you got the black barbershop and beauty salon. So you think about it, the black barbershop was involved in the civil rights movement. I mean, just throughout history, you know, we're constantly in a position of influence, whether it's, you know, you being someone's fashion consultant, their stylist, their marriage therapist, their job counselor, all of these different things. The barbershop is going to be, you know, that place where you know, you ask all your questions, you get wisdom as a young black male. It's kind of your first rites of passage was when you went to the barbershop by yourself.
Yep, I was about to say that.
You know, and you called your mom, I'm here, or your dad, I'm here, and then you left, and then you called the barber and say, I got home safely. So that's really your first rites of passage. So that's deep.
That's definitely.
Have you ever gave free cuts?
Absolutely. I still give free cuts even now, you know, but there's some things that, you know, character gets you into places where money can't.
Gems.
So if you do everything for money, you know, you're only gonna get but so far. You know, there are times where I still cut hair. I'm for free, and I'm showing my students, or I'm doing it as matter of fact. Most recently, one of the lacrosse coaches at SUNY Purchase reached out to our organization. And he said he's cutting off his hair. His hair was up to his shoulders. He's cutting off his hair for cancer research for young kids. That's something I didn't ask him for any money or anything. This was just a good cause. And you never get things back the way that you give it, right? So if you do good, you're going to get it back tenfold. If you do bad, you're going to get it back tenfold. So why not do good? But when you plant the seed, whatever, even if the seed is goodwill, you don't get back that seed. You get back a harvest.
Ooh, gems. So, overall, what's like one of the biggest things you, or maybe like your biggest highlight throughout your entire journey? Like, man, this one thing right here, I'm so grateful for this, or this one big highlight.
You know what? I got a lot of them, but if I had to pick one, it's getting out the rat race.
Wow.
Getting out the rat race, not being a corporate zombie. You know, and you know, just being able to adjust my schedule if my son has a game or something like that, or if my daughter has something going on, I can adjust my schedule to be there for my family.
And that's the goal, you know. And Bilal, that's I'm hoping that you take heed to that, because that is really what we all want here. You know what I mean? Financial freedom to do what we want. You know, make decisions on our own, be there for our family and kids. Now, if you could think about your whole life story as if it was a movie, what would be the 3 key takeaways from your personal life story?
That's a good question. Trust the process, number one.
Trust the process.
You know, you trust the process. Trust God, number one. That's number one. Trust God, trust the process, and be the person that you needed growing up. So when I go in and I teach people, whether it's Rikers Island, whether it's ACS, whether it's at the Barber Academy, I'm teaching younger versions of myself, and I'm teaching people the same age as me. You know, so it's funny that if you want something, you got to give it away, right? So if you make a culture of giving, you will always receive and never have to really ask for anything.
Those was great. I'm mentally taking note of that, because sometimes I think about that as well. Like, I'm a teacher, I'm a middle school math teacher, and I'm always pouring into the students and just trying my best, because one, I didn't have mentors growing up.
I salute you, by the way, man.
I appreciate that. So I'm always pouring in. Like, I had this guy when he was in 7th grade. I remember all his knucklehead phases. So to see him put together now, it's just always great to see. But lately, I definitely been getting a lot of people helping me out on my journey as well. So now I'm starting to see, like, okay, all the all of the time that I spent, giving back, now I'm starting to, even you coming through today, to bless the podcast is
man.
a part of it. You know what I mean? So thank you for that.
Listen, man, I'm a fan of what you're doing, man. Me hitting the love button on Instagram doesn't exactly communicate to you how much of a fan I am of what you're doing, man. And we need brothers like you. Like you're an influential person within the school, and you rhyme. You know what I'm saying? You can spit.
Yeah.
So that's dope, man.
I appreciate that.
Whatever you need.
Thank you. And then, so another question I had from someone that I know you, they was begging me to ask you this question.
Okay.
So when it comes down to starting, finding a facility, a place, like, can you just give us a gem on, like, how can you even open up a shop? Like, what's like the first piece of that? Like, how can you get an actual building, and like, I don't know if you have to own it, if you have to pay rent, like, what is that process like?
Whatever it is, you got to crawl before you walk in everything that you do. Right. So location is going to be one of the best things, even though that's somewhat changed. You heard back in the day, location. It's a little bit different now, because now with social media, you can actually create the location. Right. Mm-hmm. So you can boost the post and everything and draw people from outside of the community into where you are. But location is still going to be one of your most important decisions. Is there parking? Is it accessible by public transportation? You have all of these things going on. So if you don't really carefully plan your location, then you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot. I would also say do your homework. Like, spend time with your business. Like, hold yourself accountable to your meetings. Mm-hmm. Like, for me, it was like every Friday, like around 9:00 when my wife and kids went to sleep. I had this 2-hour zone where I'm uninterrupted. So you add that, and then after a while, God wouldn't let me sleep until I did something every day for the business. Wow. Because it was so many people's lives that were intersecting with what my assignment was. So I would say hold yourself accountable. And when you have your scheduled meetings to do your work, garnish whatever it is that you're doing. Have your fragrances, your adult beverage if you got to, or whatever you into. Not in your case, of course.
Stay in it.
But make yourself comfortable and really just sit there and grind it out. So in that, you're gonna have different things that's gonna be due week to week. You're gonna be like, all right, well, maybe I need to pull the census records. Who's in the community? What's the average median income in this community? Can they support my prices? You have to do your homework. So a lot of people may choose not to go away to college, not to go to college and become a barber or something like this, but you're going to have to do that same work anyway.
Right.
So if you go to college, then the work is going to be identical with what you're going to have to do for your business. If you don't go to college, then you're still going to have to produce college level material in order to support your business.
Gems, ladies and gentlemen, gems. I also was thinking about this school I worked in last year. I had a student that lived in a shelter, and a lot of kids in the class used to they found out and they used to bully and stuff like that. So because you are so successful and you came from that environment, what is one piece of advice you could give to a kid who's currently in that circumstance, shelter, probably don't have the most best foundation at home, mm-hmm. but they still trying. Like, mm-hmm. that student was trying their best to figure it out. What kind of advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I remember being younger and thinking like, yo, my home situation is whack, right? It's whack, So what I ended up doing was I ended up grinding as much as possible outside of my home, so that when I got home, all I did was eat and then go to sleep, pretty much. So there's so many things that you can do. You can't choose where you live. You can't choose who you're related to, your family. But outside of your household, you could get involved in every program that you see, that you take an interest in. And that stuff adds up as you continue to accumulate these hours where, Bill Gates talks about 10,000 hours, right? If you continue to remain faithful to the process, next thing you know, you're going to be light years ahead. Mm-hmm. I remember I was becoming a barber while I had a high school job. You know, so I had 2 jobs in high school. It was working at a yogurt place and being a barber and going to high school. So it got to a certain point where it was like doing both. I was like, all right, Ma, I got the Con Ed bill now. I got it this month. What else do you need? And for me, that was like a rite of passage also, because now I was able to change stuff. So I would say to that young person who is struggling, you know, take advantage of every program. You know, it has to be, and latch on to the people that you know are going to help you. Innately, you know, you might not be older or anything like that, but you know, kids know when they're being lied to.
Yep.
Right? So when you feel that somebody's genuine in your spirit, you know, latch on to them. And also, you can't look at it as a punishment if they correct you, if they check you. You know, if they give you an assignment, you didn't follow through with it, and they call you out on it. That's better than them to let you fail and say nothing.
It's that humility.
Exactly.
All right. So, you know, just to end the show, what are some things that you currently got going on? With some future plans that you got going on? And then also let everybody know where they could follow you, the movement, the business.
No, I appreciate that. You can follow us. We have several pages on Instagram, Westchester Barber Academy. You can go on our website, www.westchesterbarberacademy.org. We also have a cosmetology program where we focus on textured hair. You know, a lot of times when people go to beauty school, they're like, all right, we do a lot of straight hair. We don't really touch textured hair. And these are people that look like us that's having those experiences.
Wow.
So I created Westchester Beauty Academy so that we can level the playing field where people can learn about textured hair. So you got www.westchesterbeautyacademy.org. You know, we're accepting applications now for our cosmetology program, which is from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday. You know, we have a couple of resources available for tuition. We're a vendor with the Department of Labor. We also are a vendor with Access VR for anyone with any type of documented disability, and there's a wide range of what they consider a disability to be. It could be a learning disability, it could be a cognitive disability, it could be anything. And then we recently got certified to accept the GI Bill.
Wow.
When it comes to veterans, their spouses or their children. If they were interested in going to barber school, they could certainly do so under the GI Bill. And then last thing, we are in the process of setting up a satellite location over at Riverside Church in Harlem.
Wow. This guy's doing some great things, man.
And how can I possibly forget Phaire's Academy?
Salute.
So the program that I started when I was at my first charter school, we're actually replicating that entire program here at Phaire's Academy. So kids here are going to learn how to cut hair and get their apprentice licenses and everything. So these hours are going to count. And if they're serious about moving forward in the process, they can enroll at Westchester Barber or Westchester Beauty Academy.
Wow, there you have it, folks. Another great episode of How to Beat the Streets podcast. Y'all make sure y'all tune in. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode and take a lot from this, man. Thank you for stopping by and dropping gems.
Thanks for having me, Yas.
What you doing with the Hemi? Gimme.